Alright, so we got the old 7.3 back on the road after the piston crackola. A lot of people don't like me talking bad about Fords, but you know what? If it was your 7 grand that you just dropped into the motor, I'm not going to say squat about that. I'll just say that sucks, you know. And I don't think rightfully that the piston should have cracked at 180,000 miles, but at least we were able to find that the new pistons from Molly were updated and had more meat on them. So we were happy to see that after doing all this work. So the motor's back in, runs fantastic. We did some upgrades while we're in there, nothing power upgrades. We don't need any more power, it's got enough of that. The only thing of course we did the turbo pedestal before, but the thing that I really liked that we did this time was that crossover tube in the back. If you haven't done that on your Ford, might be something to look at doing. Especially if you're going to rebuild it, put that new updated crossover tube with the bellows connections, because we did have an exhaust leak back there that I wasn't about to fix because it was obviously a huge job to do. And but it's a much easier to do with the heads off since we had the motor out. Upgrade that. You can see back in there the bellows back in the back. The thing that did for us is it gave us a little more low end boost just off of idle. We noticed it had a little bit of a lag starting out when I first start off, and that helped out with that. So in addition to that, we of course put a nice new Gates belt on here. We put a brand new GMB water pump, yeah, Japanese engineered, I guess. They're not too bad. Usually I haven't had any problem with GMB, so I went with them. And we got a brand new Luke Innovations it's not a dual mass flywheel. I don't know if these came with them. I'm getting conflicted information. Mine did not have a dual mass flywheel on it when I took it apart, because I know the clutch is replaced at some point. So but yeah, we put that on. That was expensive, you know, for the clutch, pressure plate, and a brand new flywheel. Since we're in there, you know, you want to do that once. That transmission removal is huge. Trying to get the motor out of this thing, you got to back the trans out a little bit to get the clutch to clear on a stick shift. And you guys with automatics say no, you don't have to. You don't have to with an automatic. It's only with the stick shift you'll have to do that, because the clutch is, you know, what, 8 inches thick. So that 8 inches, when you're trying to pull it up, pull the motor up, you have to back the trans out. So anyway, of course, new air filters, all the filters all replaced, new oil, new synthetic oil. That's the way we do things. We don't play around. I don't use cheap stuff. You know, I use high quality parts I could find. We did find that the Molly gasket kit is incredibly nice. It was very comprehensive. Had all the high, what are they called? High temp gasket stuff. It had high temp the high temp silicone that comes with it, in a nice big caulking tube, so they want you to use plenty of it, and we did make sure that it didn't get any leaks. We did end up with one little fuel leak right now that we're fixing for the fittings to go to the head for the fuel pressure. So that's just one little thing, but it runs good. It actually pulls pretty nice. It's about, you know, also I put a brand new fan and clutch in. Check your fan on your motor, see if it's got any cracks in it. They're not expensive on eBay. They have some pretty good vendors for that. And I got a brand new fan clutch on eBay, which was maybe not the best brand, but you know, I mean, you're talking about, you know, like $75 versus $300 for some of the ones I looked at. And honestly, it doesn't look like a bad one. It has the thermostatic setup on it. You don't want the one that has the centrifugal, not for a diesel, big diesel motor where you can pull some weight. Anyway, runs good. So very happy with the results after the rebuild. And so if you're building your 7.3, you know, definitely go to get somebody. You know, I would go to Accurate Diesel. Tim from Accurate Diesel's been really good for every diesel truck I've had. Now this isn't my first rodeo, and it's one of the, I've had 6.9 liter Ford that was pretty good, not bad truck, but I've had a lot better luck with Chevys, guys. So sorry, you know, the Ford just, you know, the 7.3, when you're talking about a cracked piston at 180,000 miles, it's pretty pathetic to me. And I got a right to bitch. Okay, so you guys who aren't paying the $7 grand, you got 1 million miles on your truck, you know, cross your fingers and thank the lucky stars and whoever else you're into, and that you didn't have to do what I did, because you know what, it doing this sucks, and I've never had to do that with any other diesel motor I've ever had with that many miles and pulling anything. So anyway, you know, I've had much better luck with my Chevys, less oil leaks. I've had way more oil leaks with this truck, way more problems with stuff like that. Overall, if you're looking at motors, if you have a 6.0, 6.2, 6.7 Ford, man, I would be putting that thing on eBay and getting rid of it. I don't know, you guys with those trucks, good luck. Because man, when we were doing the motor on this thing, I'm going to tell you, the rods and everything are really strong with the 7.3. The weak point was the pistons, and they upgraded them, so now I think we're probably going to be good forever, $7 grand later. Okay, so those of you guys who have the 6.0, 6.2, 6.7s, we were over at the machine shop and the guy goes, hey, check out these 6.2 rods, and I'm like, those are for a diesel? And he's like, yeah. He says, I won't even machine them because I'm afraid that if I machine them, then I own them. He says, I'm not machining these. And he showed me how thin they are and how small they are. So I said I would not do any power upgrades to one of those things, and I would chuck it as far as I could if I had one, and look for something with a 7.3. If you have to get a bucket truck that has a lift, or get a 6.5 Chevy, they're actually not a bad motor. Everybody gives them a bad rap, but the biggest problem is the PMD isolator. You have to take that PMD off the pump and move it over to the side with a wiring harness. And I put on mine, I put a processing fan on it, and I never had a problem since after doing that. But before that, I had numerous problems with this PMD pump mounted device. The 6.5, other than that, the motor was bulletproof. And then I did some power ups on that because it just doesn't have that much power. It's just simple things you got to do is just take the intake system off, because it's trash. It's a rattlesnake, and it doesn't have any flow. So, but yeah, if you're trying to get a bucket truck, you know, and you were looking at some of these things, and you're looking at 6.4s, you know, I would totally steer you away from that. Those things are just trash. That motor it's a disaster, and it's made by the same people that designed this shit. So, you know, I don't know. You know, the way I look at it is, if I could not do Ford, I would not do Ford, because I've had so many of them with problems over the years that, you know, I'd steer away. But when you got to have a bucket truck, when you're talking about a truck with a lift on it, they only make them in Ford. So mostly, they had some older Chevys, 90 Chevys, in the early, the Duramax got, I guess, too expensive for the cabin chassis, so they didn't use those, and they were using these things in the 6.4s and the 6.0s, and man, I'll tell you what, I mean, the 6.0 might be better than the 6.4, but I really don't know that much about the 6.0s yet. I mean, I as much as bad stuff as I've seen with the 6.4 and the bad stuff I've seen, the little bit of bad stuff I've seen, and the oil leaks and all the other garbage with the 7.3, you know, I'd steer away from even the 6.0 myself, but that's up to you. This label right here, they suck. All right, so anyway, but the truck runs good now. We're back on the road, ready to go to work. Talk to you later.